I grew up in rural Arkansas, the kind of place where neighbors were half a mile apart and property lines were marked with rusted barbed wire and bent wooden signs. When I was 17, my friend Mason dared me to explore an abandoned property off the old gravel road near his house, a sagging white house with green shutters, surrounded by acres of dead fields. People said the owners died years ago. Adults avoided talking about it. Kids traded rumors, squatters, a murder, maybe a meth lab. We didn't believe any of that. It was late October when we biked out there, an hour before sunset. The place looked exactly like something you'd see in a true crime documentary: porch partially collapsed, mailbox hanging by a single screw, an entire window blacked out with garbage bags. I could feel the cold creeping up earlier than usual, as if the land itself didn't want us there. The front door was locked, so Mason suggested going around back. We stepped through tall, dry grass that hissed around our ankles. Every window was sealed or broken. We finally found a small cellar door slightly cracked open. That's when I said, maybe we shouldn't, but Mason already had his hand inside, pulling it open. The smell hit first, wet wood and something metallic. The concrete steps led down into darkness. Mason clicked on his flashlight, and we descended. The cellar was empty except an old wooden table. On it were three things: a glass jar full of something cloudy, a Polaroid camera, and a single fresh apple. Fresh. Like someone recently left it there. "Someone lives here," I whispered. As we turned to go back up, the cellar door above us slammed shut. The pitch-black silence that followed was suffocating. Mason sprinted up the steps and slammed into the door. "Hey!" "Hello," he yelled, pounding on the wood. No response. Then we heard footsteps. Slow. Heavy. Above us. Someone was in the house. We scrambled into the far corner of the cellar, and Mason turned off the light. The footsteps creaked across the floorboards above. Whoever it was, they were dragging something, a long scrape, like metal on old wood. The footsteps stopped directly above us. Then the scraping sound returned, but this time it was on the trapdoor itself. We bolted to the stairs. I shoved Mason upward, both of us shoving as hard as we could until the door finally budged and flew open. We ran full speed across the overgrown field, not stopping until we reached the road. When we finally turned back, out of breath, someone stood on the collapsing porch. A tall, skinny man. Face hidden by the shadow of the house. But we could see the glint of something in his hand. Something metal. He didn't move. Didn't shout. Just stared. We told the police everything. They said the property was not abandoned. The owner was known to law enforcement, but they wouldn't tell us more. They sent a deputy to handle it. The next day, the house burned to the ground. No explanation. No police report released. No suspects named. And sometimes, when I think about that cellar door slamming shut, I wonder, did he lock us down there because he wanted us gone? Or because he wanted us to stay? In the summer before my sophomore year of college, I worked part-time at a sporting goods store. I got really into hiking and camping, exploring parts of Washington state I'd never seen before. One evening after work, I decided to check out an old trail near the foot of Rainier, something locals called the Timber Vein. No maps. No official signposts. Just a word-of-mouth path that older hikers talked about but never recommended. I parked my car near a clearing and walked into the woods. Everything was quiet, too quiet. The air felt thick and old. About a mile in, I found something strange, a narrow dirt path, freshly trampled, not wide enough for more than one person. It led deeper into the forest. I followed it. 20 minutes later, I stepped into a small clearing. There was a campsite. A tent. A fire pit. A small metal cooler. But here's the thing. There was no trail leading out of the clearing, only the one I came from. The forest around the camp was thick wall-to-wall trees. Nobody would haul camping gear through that kind of brush. Someone shouldn't be able to camp here. I approached the tent slowly and whispered, "Hello?" No answer. I peeked inside. The sleeping bag was zipped, and something was inside it. Something human-shaped. I froze, then reached out and nudged it. It felt solid. Heavy. But it didn't move. I slowly unzipped the top just enough to see what was inside. It wasn't a person. It was a mannequin torso. A realistic one. Cut at the waist. My stomach dropped. Why would someone bring this here? Leaves crunched behind me. I turned and saw a man standing at the tree line. Dirty clothes. Long beard. Pale skin like he hadn't seen sun in months. And he wasn't blinking. I stumbled backward. I thought this was empty, I stuttered. He tilted his head slowly, like a dog examining something unfamiliar. Then he spoke in a quiet, raspy voice. "You're not supposed to be here." "I'm leaving," I said quickly. "No," he answered. "You already came too far." He took a step forward. I bolted. Sprinting down the path, branches whipping my arms and face. I didn't dare look back. I heard him running after me, heavy footsteps pounding the dirt, getting closer. When I finally saw the clearing near my car, I threw myself toward it. I jumped in, slammed the lock, and looked back. He had stopped at the tree line. Just standing there. Watching. Expressionless. As if he wasn't even out of breath. I sped away, shaking violently. When I told the sheriff's department, they said they'd check it out. But 2 days later, a deputy called me back and said they found nothing, no campsite, no mannequin, no footprints. But here's what still haunts me. A month later, I found a picture slipped under my windshield at work. A photo of my car parked in that same clearing. Taken at night. During my junior year of high school, my family rented an old farmhouse on the outskirts of town. It was big, creaky, drafty, but we loved it until the noises started. At first, it sounded like mice in the walls. Scratching. Skittering. Then came the knocking, soft taps that seemed to travel across the house, room to room, almost like someone crawling. My dad dismissed it. My mom insisted it was pipes. I didn't believe either. One night around 2 a.m., I heard whispering. Faint but close. Coming from behind my bedroom wall. I pressed my ear against it and my blood froze. It wasn't mice. It wasn't pipes. It was a voice. A man's voice. Muffled words I couldn't make out. I woke my parents, but by the time they came up, everything was silent. They still didn't believe me. The next day, I asked the landlord about the house's history. He got uncomfortable and said, "Don't go poking around. It's an old place with old problems." That night, I set my phone to record audio while I slept. In the morning, I played it back and nearly dropped the phone. There was a voice whispering. I liked the boy's room. I confronted my parents again. Dad finally agreed to investigate. We spent hours checking crawl spaces and attic panels, but found nothing. A week later, everything escalated. I woke up to scratching, but not in the walls. From under my bed. I jumped out, ran to my parents' room, and begged them to check. My dad stormed into my room, yanked the bed away from the wall. And froze. There was a hole. A small busted section of the wall, large enough for someone to squeeze through. The edges were worn smooth, like it had been used repeatedly. My dad grabbed a hammer and broke the wall open wider. Behind it was a narrow cavity running the length of the house. And inside it, they found blankets, cans of food, water bottles, a small flashlight, and dozens of Polaroid photos of me. Sleeping, eating, doing homework. The police searched the entire house and found an exit point behind the kitchen pantry leading outside, meaning someone had been living in our walls the whole time. We never found the man. The landlord tried to downplay everything until police forced him to disclose that a former tenant, a mentally unstable man, had gone missing years ago and was never found. We moved out 2 days later. But sometimes, late at night, I still hear faint scratching in the walls of my new house, and I can't help but wonder. What if he followed us?